Why you got Sack and Juvie tatted on you? They not dead. I wouldn't tat nobody on me that's not dead. 2 days after that, these boys dead.
Well, it just, which one were you close with?
Both of them. Every last one of them.
YNW Melly's whole case just flipped on its head because a close homie finally leaked that late night murder footage, and what he exposed ain't light. The streets got questions, the internet shaking, and this new clip, it might rewrite everything we thought we knew about that night. Let's get inside the details. The bombshell that just dropped. These leaked videos surfaced in November 2025 featuring Jacoby Mills, a close associate who was present that night, and they're giving us the most detailed insider perspective we've ever gotten on what really went down the night Sack Chaser and Juvie got murked. But this ain't some grainy cell phone footage of the actual murders. This is raw, unfiltered interrogation tape that's got the streets talking and the internet going absolutely insane.
I already know. My dead and gone. I already know what y'all here for.
Well, it just, which one were you close with?
Both of them. Every last one of them.
Did you grow up with them?
Every last one of them.
Real talk, this footage is hitting different because Mills was actually there that night, riding in the red car that followed the Jeep where the murders allegedly happened. This ain't some secondhand information or street rumors. This is firsthand testimony from someone who was part of the crew, someone who knew all the players, someone who saw how the whole thing played out from the inside. But to understand why this footage is causing such a massive explosion across social media, we gotta break down the foundation of this case that's been captivating the hood for over 6 years straight. This all started back on October 26, 2018, when two young rising rappers, Anthony YNW Sackchaser Williams and Christopher YNW Juvie Thomas Jr., were found dead in a Jeep Cherokee at Memorial Hospital Miramar. Now, YNW Melly, real name Jamel Demons, wasn't just some random dude in the streets. This was one of their closest homies, part of the same YNW collective that had been grinding together in the Florida rap scene, building something special from the ground up. These weren't enemies. These were supposedly brothers who had each other's backs through thick and thin. The initial story that came out was that Cortland, YNW Bortland Henry, drove the victims to the hospital after they got hit in a random drive-by shooting. On the surface, it seemed like just another tragic case of young black men getting caught up in street violence, the kind of story that happens way too often in our communities. But as the investigation started peeling back the layers, the whole narrative began to fall apart faster than a house of cards in a tornado. The forensic evidence told a completely different story than what was originally reported. Instead of bullets coming from outside the vehicle like you'd expect in a drive-by, the autopsy results showed that both victims had been shot from inside the Jeep. Not only that, but the bullet trajectories indicated the shots came from the exact seat where Melly was supposedly sitting. Let me break this down for y'all because this is where the case gets really wild. The prosecution's theory is that around 1 a.m. on October 26, 2018, 8 young men showed up at New Era Recording Studio in Fort Lauderdale to work on music. Nothing unusual about that. Studios stay busy with hungry artists grinding through the night, trying to make something happen. But according to the leaked footage, the vibe was off from the jump that night. Mills describes everyone acting weird and not like their usual selves. Sackchaser was apparently being extra aggressive, slapping people for falling asleep during the session. The energy was toxic, the studio session wasn't productive, and by 3:19 a.m., everybody decided to call it a night and head home. Here's where the timeline gets crucial. The group split into 2 vehicles. 4 people got into a red Mitsubishi SUV, Trevian Glass, Dontavia Swithers, Jacoby Mills, and Adrian Davis, while the other 4 got into a gray Jeep Cherokee, Cortland Henry driving, Anthony Williams in front, Christopher Thomas in the back, and Jamel Demons, YNW Melly, in the rear driver's side seat. Now, surveillance cameras tracked both vehicles taking the same route initially, I-95 south to 595, then 595 across to I-75 south, and finally, I-75 south to Miramar Parkway. Everything seemed normal at first, just 2 cars full of tired young men heading home after a long night in the studio. But here's where things get real sinister. At 184th Avenue, the red Mitsubishi continued south and was captured on surveillance going through the guard gate at Sunset Lakes at 3:50 a.m. That's the gated community where most of the crew was staying. But the gray Jeep, it never showed up on that same surveillance footage. Instead, cell phone data would later show that the Jeep went north. Where did they go? This is where the story gets absolutely chilling. The Jeep traveled north on 184th up to Pines Boulevard, then west all the way to the edge of the Everglades, a desolate, dark area where there wouldn't be any witnesses to what whatever was about to go down. The vehicle then went south on US 27 and turned left on Pembroke Road, which dead ends at a trash facility. According to cell phone data, it was at this isolated location at 4:02 a.m. that the murders allegedly took place. But here's the part that makes this case so absolutely wild. When police searched the entire stretch of Miramar Parkway where the drive-by was supposed to have happened, they found absolutely nothing. No shell casings, no glass fragments, no bullet holes, no tire marks. Literally zero evidence that any kind of drive-by shooting had occurred there. Meanwhile, the medical examiner's testimony revealed that when the drive-by was allegedly staged at 4:02 a.m., both victims were already dead. The additional gunshot wounds that were consistent with external shooting were post-mortem, meaning they happened after the victims had already been killed by shots fired inside the vehicle. Let that sink in for a minute. According to the prosecution's theory, Melly and Bortland didn't just kill their friends. They staged an elaborate cover-up, driving around with dead bodies in the car and then shooting up the vehicle from the outside to make it look like a random drive-by. That's some cold-blooded, calculated behavior that goes way beyond a simple beef or argument that got out of hand. But the prosecution didn't stop there. They presented Instagram DMs where someone asked Melly about the deaths, and he allegedly replied, "I did that, shh." They also showed that Melly was connected to the G-Shine blood set, and that just 2 days before the murders, he was learning the oath of loyalty to the gang. Now, the first trial ended in a mistrial in July 2023 when the jury couldn't reach a unanimous verdict. The retrial has been delayed multiple times and is now scheduled for January 2027. Melly has been locked up for over 6 years without a conviction, and his co-defendant Bortland accepted a plea deal in October 2025 for accessory charges. This brings us to why these leaked videos are such a massive deal. Jacoby Mills, also known as Jacoby Mills or Cortez Teasy, Jacoby is described as Bortland's blood cousin and was one of the people riding in the red car that night. This means he was close enough to the situation to know what really happened, but far enough removed to potentially survive and tell the story. These videos were originally recorded in January 2019, just months after the murders happened and before most of the case details became public. That timing is crucial because it means Mills was talking about things that wouldn't be revealed to the public for years, which gives his statements serious credibility. The fact that this footage is just now surfacing in November 2025, right as the retrial is being prepared, raises some serious questions about timing and motivation. Are these leaks strategically timed to influence public opinion? Are they connected to the civil lawsuits that are still ongoing? Or did they just happen to surface now as part of the discovery process in other related cases? The hip-hop community's reaction has been absolutely explosive, with everyone from DJ academics to random Twitter users weighing in on what these revelations mean. The streets are divided. Some people see this as the smoking gun that proves Melly's guilt, while others view Mills as a snitch who's betraying the code for his own benefit. What makes this whole situation even more complex is that Mills repeatedly denies being a snitch throughout the interrogation, insisting that he's just trying to help his friends. But the details he provides are so specific and potentially damaging that it's hard to see how they could help anyone except the prosecution. Mills spills all the tea, the most explosive hip-hop confession ever. Yo, we're back, and it's about to get real spicy in here. If you thought part 1 was wild, buckle up, because we're about to dive into the nitty-gritty of what Jacoby Mills actually said in that interrogation room, and I'm telling you right now, this footage is more explosive than anything we've seen in hip-hop in years. This dude basically laid out the entire blueprint of what allegedly went down that night, and some of these details are so specific that they're giving me chills just thinking about them. Mills starts off by giving a minute-by-minute breakdown of the studio session that night, and right from the jump, you can tell something was off about the whole vibe. He describes how they got to New Era Recording Studio around midnight, but instead of the usual productive energy, everybody was tired and falling asleep. Now in the hood, when you book studio time, that's expensive. You don't waste that money unless something serious is going on. But here's where Mills' story starts getting really interesting. He paints Sack Chaser as this aggressive, controlling dude who was slapping people for dozing off during the session. Now, if you know anything about street dynamics, when someone's getting that disrespectful in front of the whole crew, that's usually building up to some serious drama. Mills describes Sack Chaser as crazy and having a history of violence, which fits with other accounts suggesting there were ongoing tensions within the group about money and control.
He pulled that gun on me.
Saying Kobe pulled a gun on her?
Yep, 5:30 that morning. She called out of work and she called. Wait, stop. And you really can't even tell Courtney. I know what.
Yeah, don't say it. Don't say it.
That's what she told Mariah too, because that's what Mariah told me.
Jamie just called me at 8 and told me.
Melly called her at like 5:30 that morning.
This brings us to something that's been rumored in the streets for years, but never confirmed: the money disputes that allegedly led to the murders. According to various sources in the leaked audio, there were major disagreements over a record deal worth several $100,000. Sack Chaser apparently believed he was the CEO of YNW and was entitled to get half of whatever Melly made. Now, Mills gives us some details about the vehicle setup that night that are absolutely crucial to understanding what went down. He confirms that the Jeep had Bortland driving, Sack Chaser in the front passenger seat, Melly behind Bortland, and Juvie behind Sack Chaser. Mills himself was in the red car with Tay driving, Fetty in the front passenger seat, and Adrian Davis. But here's something that gives me goosebumps every time I think about it. Mills claims he initially tried to get into the Jeep, but felt divinely prevented from doing so. Whether you believe in divine intervention or just street intuition, this detail suggests that Mills sensed something was about to go wrong with that particular group of people. Mills also mentions that Juvie collected weapons from the studio before they left, and that Melly was carrying a brown satchel that supposedly had a gun in it. This aligns with the prosecution's theory that the murders were premeditated rather than some spontaneous argument that got out of hand. But now we get to the part that's absolutely wild. Mills describes how they arrived at the house in Sunset Lakes and waited outside for about 30 minutes because nobody had keys. Most people went inside and fell asleep, but around 4 a.m., Mills gets this absolutely chilling phone call from his mother saying someone had called and threatened, "Y'all all dead." Let that sink in for a minute. Mills's mother gets a call in the middle of the night warning that her son and his friends are in mortal danger. That's some serious street politics right there. When people start threatening family members, things have escalated way beyond just music business disputes. Mills then describes getting multiple missed calls from Melly, including 17 calls to Drew, who was the group's videographer. When someone's blowing up your phone like that in the middle of the night, you know something major has just happened. But here comes the most damning part of Mills' entire testimony. He describes how Melly FaceTimed him after the murders and claims that Melly was straight up faking his emotions. According to Mills, Melly was fake crying with no actual tears, just putting on a performance to sell the story that he was devastated about his friends' deaths. Now, in the hood, being able to fake emotions convincingly after committing violence is a skill that separates the real killers from the wannabes. If Mills' account is accurate, we're talking about someone who could murder his closest friends and then immediately switch into performance mode to cover his tracks. That's some serious sociopathic behavior right there. Mills also provides specific details about Melly's appearance when he saw him at Fredo Bang's house afterward. He mentions that Melly had changed into a tank top and gym shorts, which suggests a clothing change that could be related to disposing of evidence. This detail about clothing changes has been corroborated by other witnesses who testified during the trial. But wait, it gets even more insane. Mills describes how the next morning, the crew went searching in nearby woods and found a blood-soaked .40 caliber handgun. Mills says he actually held this bloody gun before a manager took it away from him. He also mentions they were looking for a second weapon described as a Tech, probably a Tech 9, but never found it. This detail about finding weapons is huge because the prosecution has always said they never recovered the murder weapon despite extensive searches. Mills's account suggests that weapons were found and disposed of by the crew, which would explain why law enforcement never located them. Throughout all of this, Mills consistently says that Bortland wasn't really involved in the actual violence. He describes Bortland as someone who isn't living like that and wasn't capable of the kind of cold-blooded murder that allegedly occurred. This could explain why Bortland was able to take a plea deal for accessory charges instead of facing murder charges. But Mills doesn't just stop at describing what happened. He starts speculating about why it happened, and this is where things get really controversial. Mills talks about this being a setup and draws comparisons to other high-profile cases like King Von's murder. But the most explosive part is when he starts questioning NBA YoungBoy's knowledge about the incident.
The remix of Melly song, listen to that. What he said, bust a nigga head, something.
Mills specifically asks how NBA YoungBoy knew so much about what happened, referencing social media posts and an alleged remix song that supposedly contained insider details about the murders. Now, this is where we gotta pump the brakes a little bit because extensive searches haven't found any evidence of this alleged remix, and no federal investigations have connected NBA YoungBoy to these murders. But the fact that Mills brought up YoungBoy at all is significant because there were reportedly previous altercations between their crews. In the streets, these kinds of beefs can escalate quickly and lead to serious consequences. Whether Youngboy actually had anything to do with what happened or not, the fact that he's being mentioned in connection with this case shows how deep the web of hip-hop politics can get. What makes Mills's statements particularly compelling is how many details he provided in 2019 that weren't public knowledge at the time, but have since been proven accurate. For example, Mills mentioned that Juvie's thumb was shot off, which wasn't confirmed publicly until lawyer John Phillips released autopsy photos in 2025. Mills also correctly described the location where Melly was picked up by Fredo Bang, details that align with cell phone data that wasn't revealed until the trial. But throughout this entire interrogation, Mills keeps insisting that he's not snitching, he's just trying to help his friends. At one point, he expresses genuine fear that they might kill his family over his cooperation with law enforcement.
If we done jumped in front of them, it was already too late. We can't try to pull over and get back behind them.
Now, the reaction to these leaks has been absolutely insane across social media. Hip-hop personalities like DJ Academics have analyzed the footage, while fans on platforms like Reddit and Twitter are debating whether Mills should be considered a reliable witness or just another snitch trying to save his own skin. What's particularly interesting is how these revelations fit into the broader context of loyalty and betrayal in hip-hop culture. In the streets, there's an unwritten code about not cooperating with law enforcement, no matter what. But when your friends get murdered and you suspect one of your other friends did it, those lines start getting blurry real quick. In our final part, we're going to explore what all of this means for Melly's upcoming trial, how it's affecting other people in the hip-hop community, and what the broader implications are for street culture and the music industry. Because trust me, this story is about way more than just one murder case. It's about loyalty, money, power, and the deadly consequences when all of those things collide in the wrong way. The fallout, how this changes everything for hip-hop. Alright y'all, we've reached the final act of this absolutely crazy story, and let me tell you, the ripple effects from these leaked videos are spreading through the culture like wildfire. We're not just talking about one murder case anymore, we're looking at how this footage is reshaping conversations about loyalty, snitching, street politics, and the music industry itself. The fallout from Mills's revelations is hitting different levels of the game, from legal implications to industry politics to the fundamental codes that govern street culture. First, let's talk about the legal ramifications, because these leaks are dropping right in the middle of Melly's trial preparations, and that timing is not coincidental. Legal experts are saying that while this footage probably won't be admissible in the criminal trial due to authentication issues and hearsay concerns, the fact that millions of people have now seen it means jury selection just became a nightmare.
I yelled downstairs, I said, Eddie, see a Sack and Melly in the room. He already sleep in the Sack room. He had ran to the stairway because he heard me talking crazy, like, man, what the f going on? He looking lost, like, what's going on, bro? I say, man, go see a Sack in his room, bro.
Think about it. How do you find 12 impartial jurors when half the internet has already watched Mills break down exactly what he thinks happened that night? Defense attorneys are definitely going to move to suppress this evidence and probably ask for a change of venue, because trying to seat a fair jury after this viral explosion is going to be nearly impossible. But here's where it gets really interesting from a strategic standpoint. Some people are speculating that these leaks might be connected to the ongoing civil wrongful death lawsuits, where the victims' families are pursuing monetary damages, and the rules about admissible evidence are different. In civil court, hearsay rules are more relaxed, and the burden of proof is lower than in criminal proceedings. The fact that Fredo Bang has been dragged into depositions for the civil case shows how wide this net is spreading. Bang wasn't even directly involved in what happened that night, but because Mills mentioned that Melly came to his house afterward, now he's caught up in the legal machinery. This has even drawn reactions from figures like 50 Cent, showing how the case continues to captivate the broader hip-hop community. Now let's talk about the street politics aspect of this whole situation, because that's where things get really complex. The leaked audio of Sack Chaser's family talking the day after the murders reveals some deep insider knowledge about the tensions within YNW. Family members are discussing financial disputes, talking about how Sack Chaser was trying to prevent Melly from signing what they called a devil's deal.
Like DeAndre told somebody, everything Melly get, I get half.
Me do.
You hear that? He said he do. He just said Juvie and DeAndre, Sack Chaser, are YNW. And Sack Chaser's supposed to get half of everything.
This brings up something that's been whispered about in the streets for years. The idea that these murders were ultimately about money and control rather than random violence or even gang politics. When you're talking about record deals worth hundreds of thousands of dollars, and one person thinks they're entitled to half while the other person disagrees, that's the kind of dispute that can turn deadly real quick. The family audio also reveals suspicions about Melly's mother's involvement in the aftermath, including allegations about a storage unit being rented the morning after the murders perimeters to move belongings and potentially hide evidence.
So she just took your clothes?
I mean, no, she got everybody's clothes. Everybody's clothes that was in there.
Why? My mind is telling me there's some, hiding of evidence type shit going on.
The fact that Melly's mom called out of work at 5:30 a.m. the same morning suggests she knew something major had happened before the news became public. Now, the NBA YoungBoy angle that Mills brought up is particularly interesting because it shows how deep these street politics can go. Mills questioned how YoungBoy seemed to have insider knowledge about the murders, referencing an alleged remix in social media posts. While there's no evidence of the remix Mills mentioned, there were reportedly previous altercations between the crews. The fact that YoungBoy's name is even coming up in connection with this case demonstrates how interconnected the hip-hop world really is. Beefs, alliances, and street politics don't exist in isolation. They're part of a larger web of relationships that can have serious consequences when they go wrong. But let's talk about the elephant in the room, the snitching allegations against Mills. Throughout the interrogation, Mills repeatedly denies being a snitch, insisting he's just trying to help his friends. But the hip-hop community's reaction has been brutal. Social media is full of people calling him out for cooperating with law enforcement, regardless of his motivations. This touches on one of the fundamental tensions in hip-hop culture. What do you do when the no snitching code conflicts with seeking justice for murdered friends? Mills was in an impossible situation. If he stayed silent, the killers potentially get away with murder. If he talks to police, he gets labeled a snitch and becomes a target himself. The fact that Mills expressed genuine fear that his family might be killed for cooperating shows just how serious these dynamics can be. In the streets, snitching isn't just about legal consequences, it's about survival. From a broader cultural perspective, this case is highlighting some uncomfortable truths about the music industry and street culture. The financial disputes that allegedly led to these murders reflect larger issues about how money and success can destroy friendships and families in hip-hop. When everyone's hungry and suddenly there's a big check on the table, those are the moments when loyalty gets tested. Critics have long argued that cases like this show how young black artists are unfairly scrutinized by law enforcement, while others point to the strength of the forensic evidence as compelling proof of guilt. The fact that Melly has been in custody for over 6 years without a conviction raises questions about due process, while supporters of the prosecution argue that the seriousness of the charges justifies the extended proceedings. Looking ahead to the retrial scheduled for January 2027, it's clear that these leaked videos have fundamentally changed the landscape. The state of Florida is still seeking the death penalty, and legal experts believe there's virtually no chance of a plea deal that doesn't involve life in prison. With Bortland having taken a plea deal and potentially positioned to testify against Melly, and now these detailed statements from Mills circulating widely, the pressure on Melly's defense team is absolutely enormous. But beyond the legal implications, these revelations have reminded us of the human cost of what allegedly happened that night. Mills's description of Juvie as an innocent who wanted out of the rap lifestyle and his portrayal of the complex relationships within the group paint a picture of young men whose lives were cut short, allegedly by someone they trusted. The viral nature of these leaks also raises questions about ethics in the social media age. Should interrogation footage be entertainment? How do we balance the public's right to information with the rights of defendants to fair trials? These are questions that extend far beyond this single case as we wait for the retrial to begin. One thing is certain, these leaked videos have ensured that the YNW Melly case will remain one of the most closely watched legal proceedings in hip-hop history. The full truth of what happened on October 26, 2018 may be more complex than anyone initially realized, but Mills's detailed account has given us the most comprehensive insider perspective we've ever had on these tragic events. Whether this footage ultimately helps convict Melly, reveals additional layers of complexity, or gets thrown out entirely remains to be seen. But what's already clear is that this case has exposed fundamental tensions within hip-hop culture about loyalty, money, violence, and justice that go far beyond any single individual's fate. The streets are watching, the courts are preparing, and the culture is still trying to process what it all means. One way or another, this story is far from over, and the reverberations from these leaks will be felt long after the final verdict is rendered. If you enjoyed watching this video, then go ahead and click on any of the cards on your screen for more.